You can use proven ways like intermittent fasting, like getting regular exercise, steps in, good quality food, and some possibly potentially longevity drugs involved. You can extend life. What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the channel. It's Jacob Sunday Lifters, and today we are going to be talking about dogs, which is probably not what you came to this channel for, and it's very off topic from what I normally go into, but it's a video I really wanted to do, and it does have some sort of, you know, practical application to people as well. There is some crossover in this, so it's not entirely useless. But I would say if you don't have a dog and you're not interested in dog longevity, it's probably best to switch this one off. People who have dogs understand it's very much like losing a family member. When you lose a dog, like a friend or a family member, we want to help protect them. We want to spend as much time as we can with them while we can. So that's what today's video is all about. It's about longevity in dogs, and just some observations. And I'm not going to say advice, because this is very far removed from the content I usually put out and the things I'm comfortable recommending to people, but it's certainly interesting stuff worth consideration. But before we get into the nitty gritty, as always guys, if you could just like this video, drop a comment, and possibly consider subscribing, it would really help the channel grow, and it does mean a lot to me. Now, I know of, and there are many people who are open in the longevity sphere and in a sort of health and you know, this sort of area in general, very open about taking a drug called rapamycin. It's a drug that I plan to take later in my life, probably as I'm in my mid-30s or coming up to 40. I already take a drug called metformin on a sort of semi-regular basis, which I've spoke about before, and I will link for you guys if you want to check that out. These two drugs come up commonly in the longevity space, and when people talk about how to possibly extend human life, and I do plan on doing a full video about rapamycin at some point. But in aid of keeping today's video brief, I'm not going to go into all the mechanisms. I'm going to try and keep this relatable to dogs. Now, I'll get back to rapamycin in a moment, and you'll see why it's relevant. But what we need to know is our body has three major nutrient sensing pathways, and so do most mammals, or maybe even all mammals. I'm not entirely sure, but certainly the types of animals we'd have as pets, generally speaking, like cats and dogs and you know, rabbits, etc. We all have this Mtor pathway, the AMPK pathway, and sirtuins as well. Mtor is the thing we're going to be focusing on in today's video. Mtor is the mechanistic target of rapamycin, or the mammalian target of rapamycin. I've heard both be thrown around. Rapamycin will inhibit the Mtor pathway, and specifically Mtor C1 and Mtor C2. Now, why that might be desirable is because across studies, across species, when you know, flies, worms, yeast, mice take rapamycin for extended periods of time, as a general rule, it seems to extend lifespan by about 25%. So bringing this back to dogs, when you see that there are already people taking rapamycin, there's been, you know, shown in multiple studies across species to extend life by up to 25% lifespan. That led me to looking into dogs, because I have 3 dogs of my own. They're all getting to around 7-8 years old, and I want to do what I can to sort of keep them healthy and living a long and happy life. There's currently studies ongoing, one of which is called the Canine Longevity or Dog Aging Project. Another one is the Golden Retriever Lifetime Study, and we're not going to delve into that one too much, and the reason being because I don't know for sure if the dogs on that trial are taking rapamycin or not, but I will link it down below, because there is some interesting sort of data that has already been released on that study, because that one has been going on for the longer period of time. Now, in the Canine Longevity / Dog Aging Project, what you can see is the dogs are taking rapamycin. However, trials are still ongoing and are about you know, they're still in their infancy, to be honest. They're about, I think one of them is halfway through. It's a possible 10-year trial, but I might be thinking of the Golden Retriever lifetime study. You know, like I say, I'll link it down below so you can check the facts. But for sure, they are taking rapamycin in the Canine Longevity project, and that's why that one in particular piqued my interest. The problem being, unless you're associated with a university, a place of study, a recognized educational institution, or a independent lab, there's no way of really accessing this data. I really tried to find some and I couldn't. Now, out of sheer luck, I saw a medical doctor, highly respected medical doctor in this field, who many of you will probably know if I gave their name. I'm not going to give their name, just because in the conversation we had, they mentioned something that they said at some point they will go public with, which they haven't yet. So it's not for me to sort of do that. And secondly, this doctor also is very focused on current and ongoing research on people. So they're not known for dogs, basically, and they've been advised not to post too much about dogs. So that's why I'm not mentioning their name. But the point is, I sent them a message, just shooting my shot, asking about if they knew where I could access some of this research on dogs. And again, just out of chance, I didn't know this, the doctor I spoke to, they've got 2 dogs themselves who are actually on that trial, so is able to offer an incredible insight that I just got out of chance. So this doctor has 2 wolfhounds, and they said to me, think about this, guys, and we'll touch more on this later. You know, you can look what a wolfhound's general size is. They are giving their wolfhound 1 milligram of rapamycin every 2 weeks. Now, what you need to consider, and what I need to make very clear, is if you are researching rapamycin and dog longevity, and you are going to go down this route, just like in people, just because one dog is taking 1 milligrams every 2 weeks does not mean that that is the dose you should give your dog. A wolfhound is a certain size. If you've got a Chihuahua or I don't know, like a miniature Schnauzer or something like that, a small dog, you don't want to be, you know, it's not a good idea to chuck them on 1 milligram every 2 weeks. Just, you know, as with everything, if you are going to do this like you would on yourself, you start on the smallest possible amount and then you titrate up. It's not the other way around. Be informed, be sensible, and use common sense. Some other things to bear in mind. Studies in other animals do not always translate to every species, despite the great results in, like I say, the rats, the flies, the yeast, whatever it is. It does not mean it will 100% be the same in dogs. All the dog trials are ongoing. If you are looking into getting your dog on some kind of protocol with rapamycin, all I'll say is do the research, reach out to experts, be informed. Like I say, it's not something to just jump into. Rapamycin overdoses can be dangerous. It is a immunosuppressant, and it's actually used in human clinical settings during transplants to stop bodies rejecting the new organ, i.e. during a kidney transplant. Some other safer, more proven options you should, you know, be exploring before rapamycin is the following, and this part of the video will be much more, I guess, digestible and familiar to you guys. Steps. Like humans, a dog's muscle and bone, its sort of, you know, structural integrity essentially will deteriorate over time if it's not used. It very much is a use it or lose it sort of thing, like it is with humans as we age. So a dog can benefit massively from getting the same 10,000 steps average per day that a human can benefit from, and they will literally garner all the same benefits as us humans would from that. It keeps you fit, it gets blood pressure down, it, like I say, it will help you hold on to muscle and bone and keep them strong as you age. There's so many benefits to walking. Quality vet approved food. The food you feed your dog is really important. It matters a lot. Again, very transferable to humans. I do not feed my dogs human food or very, very rarely, maybe every now and again. I don't do it. Some of my family members do. I wish they wouldn't, but it's the puppy dog eyes, man. But I don't do it. A dog's gut microbiome is very different to a human's, the foods they should be eating. And again, like when we have foods that just don't agree with us, you know, the gut microbiome has massive links to sort of age-related diseases and like how susceptible we are to these things as we age. It seems to play a huge role, and we're learning this more and more these days, in your immune response. You feed your canine companion crap, you know, once a day, 7 days a week, 12 months, suddenly it's 6 years. Like it will affect your dog later in life. And dogs are, again, because of the way we live, there's an obesity problem in dogs these days, and feeding them human food and not walking them is the problem. Intermittent fasting. So while we're on the topic of how often you eat in a day, let's mention intermittent fasting, because you shouldn't eat more than you have to in a day, and ideally you want to be doing OMAD or putting your dog on OMAD, 1 meal a day. When we get older, we want to try and avoid activating AMPK and mTOR if we're coming at things from a longevity perspective, because these are ultimately the pathways that age us. Those pathways work exactly the same in dogs. So it's like, it doesn't matter if you feed your dog, say you feed your dog 2,000 calories a day, that's way too much for a dog. But I'm just using it as an example because it's easy. You have 1,000 in meal 1 and 1,000 in meal 2, right? It doesn't mean you can't feed your dog 2,000 calories in the day anymore, but actually just compressing that into one meal so they're not eating for a lot of the day, they're basically intermittent fasting, it stops the activation of mTOR and AMPK multiple times in the day. So conclusions, there are some ways, much like in us, you can sort of approach your dog's longevity. You can use proven ways like intermittent fasting, like getting regular exercise, steps in, good quality food, and some possibly potentially longevity drugs involved. You can extend life. Although the science is ongoing, the studies are ongoing, there are many anecdotal sort of accounts out there, guys, of when people have already done this in canines and the sort of effects they saw from the regular walking, the food, even rapamycin. There are people who have done this already and sort of logged it, but it's just not, it's anecdotal, you know, there's not a lot of evidence basically with these things, but it's up to you whether you believe them. It's not exactly the case, but it really does no harm to treat your dog like you would treat yourself, making sure their sleep quality is good, making sure they get out in sunlight. Again, I'm not going to go over it again, but the things we listed today. Approximately 1 in 4 dogs will get cancer at some point in their life, and then further to that, approximately half of dogs over 10 develop some kind of cancer. Larger breeds like boxer dogs, golden retrievers, German shepherds, wolfhounds seem to be more susceptible to osteosarcoma, or which is essentially a certain type of bone cancer. It's no coincidence that more dogs over 10 develop cancer than before then. Cancer does have a correlation, not a relation, but it does seem to have some kind of interaction with aging. And so by using these methods, by implementing a certain protocol for your dog, you can reduce that number. Not only that, you can just reduce the amount of problems your dog has as it ages, age-related disease, age-related, you know, joint problems, all those things. You can do something about it. So that's all I'm going to touch on today, guys. Thank you very much if you made it to the end. As always, it's hugely appreciated if you could just drop this a like, a comment, and subscribe if you haven't already. It's hugely appreciated. You can follow me on Instagram and Facebook. It's at Sunday Lifters. You can hit the little bell icon to stay up to date with videos I'm doing, the new ones as and when they come out. And you can email me at sundaylifters@gmail.com for workout plans and online coaching. Nice one, guys. See you here again very soon.